Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to episode 159 of What a Piece of Junk, the Star Wars show here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I am your host, Scott Botman, and joining me is my original co pilot for the podcast, Mr. Derek Marsh. Derek, how's it going, and Happy New Year!
Happy New Year to you as well, my friend. It's been good. It's been busy. I missed the last recording because had family in town and just everything. So I appreciate you guys keeping the Drunken Gungan a go, covering episode 5. But I got myself caught up a couple of days ago. I've just kind of been kind of procrastinating watching episode 5 and 6 when it came out earlier. Well, I guess today's Sunday, so last week. No, super excited to get it caught back in. I will definitely say these two episodes, especially episode 5, felt it did a really good job. Putting out some things, some questions that I had, and then episode 6 really felt like it kind of brought the episode, some more character depth. So super excited to talk about those two episodes. Well, at least episode 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And joining us to talk about episode 6 of Skeleton Crew is our very own Dave Filcloni, Mr. Miracle, the Gooey Chewy, our resident trash crab, our man of 1,000 nicknames, Mr. Nathan Miracle. Nathan, trash crab, trash crab.
Follow
trash
me.
crab.
Follow.
Sorry. It's really hard not to get wrapped up with those guys, as our heroes almost did.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be back. I was here last week, and of course, we talked a little bit of Star Wars CCG, and I am proud to report that Scott and I did play a game with the new cards that came out, and I beat him down mercilessly.
It is the first time, I believe, that Nathan has defeated me in Star Wars CCG, so everybody mark that down.
What decks did you guys play?
Well, I played a Rise of Skywalker deck that used... Well, it was supposed to use Rey. I literally just forgot to put her in the deck. Still managed to win because I was using a new version of Son of Skywalker, who does just a ton of stuff.
He's one of the best light side characters I've ever seen.
Yeah, he says during battle, characters hit by Luke may not fire weapons. So of course I put Anakin's lightsaber on him and started hitting Scott's bounty hunters and making it to where they couldn't shoot back at me. Also, to make sure I can get Anakin's lightsaber, he has May download Anakin's lightsaber here. So you just get to play Anakin's lightsaber straight from your reserve deck. Also, if a battle was just initiated at the same site, unless a vehicle here, target a Dark Jedi here. For remainder of battle, exclude all other characters. So at one point, Scott started a battle with Palpatine and 3 bounty hunters against Luke and a couple of other characters that I didn't care all that much about. And I said, that's cool. Emperor Palpatine, Son of Skywalker, going one-on-one. Everyone else is excluded. And I used Anakin's lightsaber to cut down Emperor Palpatine. Yep. That was a real turning point in the game.
Yes, double 5s on Lightsaber Destiny. So what are you going to do?
Did you not have Force Lightning?
No.
So I was running Agents of the Black Sun. So no, because I wasn't really planning on... Yeah, I wasn't really planning on having... Well, it was the real deal. It was Destiny 6 Emperor Palpatine.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't really planning on having him fight. So,
Yeah, I came to him.
Yeah, Luke had to move over there. So I did get to do my cool Agents of the Black Sun trick where I put expand the Empire on my starting location so that I then expanded the once per game download and a Black Sun character here, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
and then I kept
really frustrating for me.
I kept inserting new locations to expand it once again. So we expanded the Empire like 4 times. It was pretty cool. My problem was I should have held on to Cold Feet. I got rid of Virtual Cold Feet too early because I thought it was in the deck. It's been a while since I played. It's been like a year since I played the game. I thought I had Cold Feet around to get an extra defensive shield. What I really had it around was to stop Nathan from moving characters out of his lost pile that had just been lost. So when he did a Jedi's Resilience, I was all, oh, I have the counter, right? Crap, it's in my lost pile.
Yeah, he had lost it, I believe, to a Force Drain earlier. He's like, I don't really need this. Like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Because at one point, I did forfeit Son of Skywalker to cover some battle damage. But a Jedi's Resilience lets me take someone who has been lost while they have a lightsaber from my lost pile into my hand. So I got that Son of Skywalker right back. And because he can download Anakin's lightsaber as many times as you want, the next turn I just played him and downloaded a new copy of Anakin's lightsaber.
I was like, but you love Anakin's lightsaber, and,
like,
and
yeah,
Nathan's like, well, I have two.
read two.
I was like, you know what? I'm not even
Or-
mad, bro.
or he could have
good on
put-
you for putting 2 in the deck.
I mean, yeah, no joke about that. But no, I agree with you that it's nice that I like what the players committee does, because it's the same thing like what the Trek CC does for Star Trek cards, right? They made like cards that not necessarily, I must always say they were bad. I mean, they made a lot of bad cards good, and they've made a lot of certain niche cards, right? Because like Son of Skywalker was really only ever good in a, mind what you've learned training, Jedi training deck. And then even then it got replaced 2 sets later when you had Daughter of Skywalker.
Right, yeah.
Because
then you have Jedi Luke running
well,
around.
yeah, because then you could run Jedi Luke or Rebel Scout Luke or whatever you needed to do.
Yeah, and Leia could go train with Yoda.
And yeah, exactly, right. So it was nice that then it's like, okay, and I'll be honest, I have like 20 Son of Skywalkers, right, with all the trading and purchasing I've done over the years. So it's like, it's still a $15 card, and it's like, okay, well, this might actually help its value a little bit because, hey, it's actually a little bit more playable now.
Yeah,
so.
Good news, the new version, excellent card.
Mm-hmm.
Even better news, the new version, I believe, is a full art card, right? Or is it a V-slip?
No, it is a V-slip. It is
slip?
only the
Okay,
bottom
all
half
right.
of the
Well, then,
card.
yeah, Derek, it might
your
help the
several
value
copies,
of Son of Skywalker.
Yeah, your several copies of it are great because you can put the V-slip in front of it.
Correct. Well, and that helps it too, because if you guys didn't know, right, they announced that all the virtual cards that are full virtual cards are printable without having to have the underneath card. Now, if it's still a half slip or even a 3/4 slip, you still need the original card underneath it. But otherwise, that does definitely help. Like you guys were thinking, right? Still helps maintain the value since it's only a half slip. So.
Yeah. So Ben Solo, who is a new full slip card, you could print out. And I was running him too, although he never happened to come up. But awesome. He counts as a Skywalker, so I could have played Anakin's lightsaber on him as well. I mean, not at the same time as Luke, but he's another valid target for it.
Did you put Daughter Skywalker in your deck?
No, because there's also a new Cloud City lower corridor. Let me make sure I get the wording correct on it.
But yeah, he had lots of people that count as Skywalkers, which was good because there's a couple of other cards in that deck that targeted Skywalkers as well.
Yeah, so there's a new Cloud City lower corridor, but it's a newly errated Cloud City lower corridor that says, while Luke alone here, Cloud City Icon Rebels are Destiny, Power, and Forfeit +1. So I was running the Cloud City Princess Leia, which she's still a Skywalker of ability 4, so she can still use Anakin's lightsaber as well.
Yeah. And she's got the cool braids.
Yep.
All right, anyway, but we're not here to talk about Star Wars CCG. I mean, I guess
we are, but not
but
just
we're here to talk about Star Wars Skeleton Crew episode number 6, Zero Friends Again. Friend. Anyway, I was really bummed out about the title when it first came up because I thought that was going to mean that Captain Silvo was going to be doing even more betrayal. But no, it was much more tear-jerking than that, with poor KB explaining to Wim about how she was so scared to have zero friends again if she goes against
Fern.
Girl, Fern. Thank you
Fern.
very much. I almost said Frey. I'm like, that's not right. But yeah, overall opinion of this episode from me, you guys, it was very much a kid adventure episode. Very Amblin, if I may once again use that term as a adjective. And it really made it feel like something out of, say, Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal, or maybe even
Never-ending Story.
Some other, never-ending story. Yeah, especially the crab things, the trash crabs, really made me think of those women in Labyrinth that had all that stuff on their back because they got really mired in consumerism. Essentially, It was a parable, if you will. I loved the overall atmosphere, and then the moments of endearment where the the kids really made some strong bonds with each other, especially Wim and KB when he saved her life. And when she called him a Jedi, dude, about lost it. I was gonna cry. I'm like, oh, he's gonna be so happy, and he was. And I like that he didn't realize that he had literally saved her life until she very calmly, I might add, explained, oh, great, I didn't die. Something along those lines. So I love the episode. I'll probably go back and watch this one again. Derek, what did you think? Overall thoughts of the episode before we dive into our questions?
As I mentioned, quickly, I really enjoyed episode 5. I felt it really kind of brought back the Goonies vibes. The only thing I didn't like about it, to be honest, was actually kind of Wim's breakdown, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really think it was warranted at that point in time to have that breakdown. Like, they're like all kind of like
Yeah.
just going along, and all of a sudden he just decides to wall up, which is not to say kids don't do that, but it really
Yeah, I'm
just
going to
kind of
say,
felt.
you
Yeah,
have a kid.
yeah.
This is coming.
Yeah, no, I get that portion, but it just kind of felt out of place. Like, if it would have been something that pushed him to do it, right? Which then it was, I thought was going to be something that really kind of put Jude Law's character development with the kids and stuff. But then what I really loved about the ending of episode 5 was that nope, he didn't care. He's still a pirate, and I'm like, okay, this is great. We're keeping the characters, and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But with this episode, this was a really good one, because again, it still kept the whimsical going on, all the fun stuff that they did, and then they had to get back up there, and I really like that about that episode with the character development, as we'll go into a little bit deeper. But I felt that they did a really good job there, and it was nice because they actually split the kids up too. Right, it's always been kind of women, Neil and KB and Fern, but this time you got them flip flopped, right? And when that happened, right, you really got a bit of good character growth. So, but yeah, excited to talk a bit more in depth as we get into the questions. So,
Yep. Nathan, overall thoughts about episode 6?
I'm in a similar spot as you guys. I love this episode. It was a great episode. Got to see more of the kids. I even enjoyed the parts with Jod. Not quite as much, but uh, th- I really don't have much bad to say about this episode. Question 2, where we talk about our least favorite part of the episode, is truly going to be what is my least favorite? Because there's not a I didn't like this in this episode.
Right, right. Okay, great. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the 3 questions. So, Nathan, you can go first on question 1. What did you like best about this episode?
My favorite moment in this episode you've already talked about, and it's when KB says, "Oh, I bet you thought it was going to be more exciting to save my life," and calls
Yeah,
Wim a Jedi, because we
yeah.
have this nice dichotomy of Wim is acting like a Jedi despite not having any Jedi powers. And then you have Jod, who has Jedi powers. We don't know exactly what kind of training he has, but he can certainly use the Force, and not acting like a Jedi at all.
Right.
Um, so I love to see that type of dichotomy, and they pulled it off really well here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Derek, what did you like best about this episode?
So as I mentioned, this episode was really good for the character development of the kids. I thought it really kind of gets you to start to understand a little bit more about them. We've talked about this over several of the Disney, produced shows, and people are going to talk about being woke and all that. I'm like, no, it's just talking about real life, right? I mean, it's not like they've done some things with other like Disney princess characters or anything like that to really kind of push agendas, and that's fine. But in Star Wars, they really, I don't feel like have forced that, right? Yeah, they've hired diverse actors. They've hired, whatever sexual preference those actors are and stuff like that. And to me, it's always been, as long as they write good stories about them, I'm into it, right? And again, here's a really good example where you have a child who has a disability, and it feels ashamed of it, right? Doesn't really want to let people know because she feels like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of kids have felt like, especially since for whatever reason, kids are cruel to each other.
Yeah.
And especially in school systems and stuff like that for being different. And she's afraid that, Fern's not gonna like her anymore, who's her best and only friend up to that point, or at least that she feels like, right? Until Wim and Neil will be her friend, and she gets a heartwarming smile out of it. And then just understanding too that, you know, she's a kid with a disability where she's basically in theory, you know, not necessarily, you know, to some kids, you know, like in a wheelchair and stuff like that, but she
Right, right.
right where if she didn't have these motorized limbs or circuitry and all that, she wouldn't be able to function or do the same things that normal kids get to do. And I say normal in air quotes there. But you know, that's where I really kind of enjoyed this episode. And I also enjoyed the like I said, some fun, you know, kind of things that we talked about with the crabs, right? And they kind of get into this adventure a little bit. It was really good with Fern and Neil, and you know, Fern kind of grows up a little bit and understands, you know, there's some people that can't do what she does, right? And she's got to help Neil, and she ties the rope to him, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, this works great," you know. And she's trying to crawl up with them on that. So again, it was just a good, I felt heartwarming experience for showing a really good way for how kids are all different and how they can help each other. And by doing that, again, what you know we talked about earlier with the first few episodes, when the kids are together and they work each other, you know, work as a team, that's where their strength comes out, right? And they're able to accomplish great things. And the biggest surprise to me was, you know, they're all about the, you know, don't push the button, and it's going to be, I'm finally going to push the button. But my surprise was that, well, it was just a whole nother ship under this ship. And
Yeah.
that to me was like, oh, okay, that was a surprise. It was something unique because I just assumed it was either gonna go into some ludicrous speed and we were gonna go plaid backwards, or it was, you know, going to, you know, some big gun was gonna come out and do all this stuff. But yeah, overall, I just thought it was really a cool scene that surprised me. That like, oh no, that's just, you know, the thing you push when you're in last minute mode, and it's one ship underneath another ship, kind of like a reptile or a snake shedding its skin. And it was like,
Yeah.
okay, there's a really, the only thing that was surprising was how shiny it was underneath, but you definitely got to see why it was called the obsidian cinder. So, or the onyx
Yeah,
cinder. What
totally.
did we decide on? Is
Onyx
it
Cinder.
onyx?
Onyx.
Onyx Cinder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, great. I agree completely with both of you guys on your favorite parts. KB as the disabled kid who's telling her friend, "I'm glad you treat me like I'm not different, but guys, I am different." And you know, she was kind of saying, "I'm different, and we need to expect that. That doesn't mean it's the end of the world that I'm different, but you treating me like I'm no different is gonna be problematic too." You know, so and I loved, you know, the part that Nathan was talking about, like I said earlier, where Wim gets called a Jedi. I shed a little tear. I'm like, that kid is so great. But in order to keep the podcast more interesting, I'm going to pick a third thing as my favorite part, and that is when Captain Silvo, Crimson Jack, gives his speech at the trial with the plasma hourglass,
Yeah,
I
that
might
was cool.
add, which is really cool. And he gives that speech where he's all like, let me explain to you people why I made charisma my 18 stat on my character sheet so I could literally talk my way out of a death sentence with all these other pirates. And he goes around talking to them by name, and there's the lady that's all like, we have to follow the pirate code. And I'm like, Captain Jack Sparrow is about to walk out here any second. I mean, it's a Disney production. We got him right here. He's just off screen, right? And then
That's the Easter
Crimson
egg
Jack is
cameo we were
all,
all looking for there, Scott.
oh, that
Right?
would have been so amazing, right?
Or
They're
had
really
or
more
had
pirate
Johnny
questions.
had Johnny Depp play like a character under, like, you know, do a voice acting thing like Mark Hamill does, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
heavy makeup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Or just complete CGI and just do
yeah,
the voice.
yeah.
Anyways, yes, I loved seeing Crimson Jack talk his way out of it by once again appealing to the base, you know, instincts of pirates. We want treasure. You tell us that you know where treasure is, but only you can show us. So we're going to keep you alive just long enough to get the treasure. Then it's out the airlock with you. Walk the plank. I mean, out the airlock. You know, and so, yeah, classic pirate move. Awesome to see Jude Law bring all of his dramatic powers to bear as he literally talks his way out of death, certain death at that. And we know he's correct. We know that that is what they're doing on At Aten. It is a mint for Old Republic credits that are pristine and somehow still worth a lot of money. I haven't quite figured out monetarily, economically, why. It'd be like, I know where to get a bunch of Confederate dollars. Well, yay? I guess you could sell them for real dollars to a collector. I'm not quite clear why Old Republic credits are still worth so much, but then ever since Mon Calamari Flan was introduced, I haven't quite grasped Star Wars galaxy currency procedures and logic. And maybe this is
I
one of
just
those
assumed they were like being able to print a bunch of Babe Ruth rookie cards.
something. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Like it's like
yeah, I think
Confederate
it's like
dollars,
that.
right?
Yeah.
It's
It's
like
just
I
the
can
ability
trade these to
yeah.
collectors.
Yeah.
But
At some point, you'd
when
flood the
kids,
market, and they're not as valuable.
Yeah,
But they're not thinking
right. But
about
then
that.
when the kids were at the bar eating the chili or the space ramen, the guy was
Basically.
like, "Pay me with those coins," and I'm like, "But why would he want these coins? Are they still worth money on the in the New
Yeah.
Republic?"
I
Yeah.
guess it's kind of like if you had gold doubloons. Like, yes, you can't
Yeah,
use them as currency, but it's gold.
Well, that's what I
So,
was
yeah,
going to say.
it
Or is it
does
the
look like it's
material? Is it the material,
precious
right?
metal of some kind, but yet
Old
also
press
it was a big
latinum.
yeah, right. It was a big deal to them, to Captain Silvo and friends, that these were brand new, unspoiled, not ancient Old Republic credits. I
well,
don't.
maybe being Old Republic credits gives them the credibility of they're made of the purest form of gold or whatever,
Metal.
whatever precious metal we come up with,
Yeah,
because I'm sure it will be.
Dunium something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever it is, vibrainium, adamantium, you insert
Uno-
unobtainium.
It's not
unobtainium.
coaxium. We
There it
know
is.
that much.
It's not
Right.
coaxium because it'll blow up.
It's whatever new word we invent for this metal that doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense because it's got to fall somewhere in the periodic chart. But let's throw that out right now. But
Hey, we
it
add
could
stuff
be,
to the periodic table on occasion.
yeah, but not in. That's a whole nother
Look,
tangent.
we
I
can
don't
have the
want to get
force
into
or we can have physics. We can't have both.
This is
Okay?
chemistry. But anyway, my point is, it could be.
We can have the force or metallurgy.
It could be that being Old Republic credits gives them the credibility of this is made out of this type of metal. Much like if you had a doubloon, you'd go, "Oh man, this is gold," and you wouldn't have to check to see.
You mean I
Is this
wouldn't
really
care that
gold?
it was from Florin?
Maybe you would, but the fact that it's gold is probably more important. And
Yeah.
the fact that it's a doubloon makes it to where you're like, okay, yeah, no, this is legitimate treasure. This is gold. This is super valuable.
Yeah. All
Maybe.
right, cool.
I
All right,
don't
let's
know.
move on to question 2. What did you like least about this episode? I'll go first. It was not the trash crabs themselves. I thought those were cool. It was the king trash crab, or Gamera, as I wanted to call him. First of all, I was disappointed that when they turned the corner and the kids looked up at him, he didn't start going, shiny, because man, he reminded me of that thing from Moana. But secondly, I was disappointed that somehow all the little crabs were like working for him to bring him meals. Like, is this to keep them from becoming meals themselves? Or, like, I was very sad that the ones that were all like, follow, follow, friends, weren't
They ended up
actually
being
friends.
bad.
It's like, do we have to curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal even to the little tiny trash crabs? Why does everybody have to betray everybody in this show? I guess pirates? I don't know. They're pirate crabs. But yeah, so we had the little trash crabs, which I liked, but then it was all, a total double cross with the giant Gamera crab. I also was kind of sad that they didn't somehow get the Onyx Cinder and go back and blast the giant crab. Or even have one of the haulers crash into him when Fern was
But then
controlling
they'll have Star
But
Wars
I-
PETA after them.
Not for the giant trash crab. Come on. I mean, it'd be like killing the crate dragon in The Mandalorian. Nobody got mad about that. It was just epic, right?
Well, but
Anyways.
we could go into what else that was talking about what they've done, because like the whole point of episode 5 was Smee was like, what the heck have they done to the captain's, hidden fortress and all that stuff, and they've turned it to a pleasure
True.
island, and then but
Yeah.
around that pleasure island is all the waste, right? And you think
certain
about
death-
this, that maybe the crabs were natural creatures there, and because of all the waste, they now, instead of having a nice seashell, they have to use a Coca-Cola can. And now they're pissed off, right? So that's maybe they would have been friendly had the humans or Carillions or whoever they were didn't screw up, the banking federation there for their leisurely project.
That's
So,
right, the banking clan. Maybe you're right. And the giant crab is, some radiated, mutated crab, and like he's ruined their
Or
whole
maybe it's
society. Is the
Mama Crab just
giant
pissed
bully?
off because, she has to try and feed her family of 10,000 mini crabs and they're living in oil spew now because the water's all sucked up because now it's being used in a hot spa.
Well, and I'm guessing that the crabs don't even really know what they're saying to the kids. They've just adapted to realize that, hey, if we keep repeating this specific thing, we can get
They'll think
food to
we're
come to
friendly.
us. Like
Hmm.
for some reason, follow gets people to come with us so we can eat them.
Or maybe part of them, maybe they all weren't saying it. Maybe some of them just have certain things that have like a recording device as their shell, to your
Mhm.
point, right? And maybe they weren't.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just, they were able to work it to, even to your point, right? To, get them to follow and think that they're speaking intellectually. And it's like, no, they're just smart enough to use themselves as a Venus flytrap, right?
Death by mimicry.
So
All right. Well, anyway, Derek, what did you dislike about this episode?
well, that was the one thing that didn't make sense to me though, was really the whole crab thing, but then they had like a garbage cleanup crew like machine, like, so, like, obviously no, I mean, let's be honest, they weren't, that spa place was not that big to be producing that much garbage every day. I'll be honest, there's no way. So okay, so maybe they just decided to install this garbage disposal thing and it's now trying to clean up, but they're 20 years too late. I don't know, right? I don't, but it just didn't make sense to me. That's like, okay, you have the crabs, they're here, but then you have this machine thing that's cleaning up the garbage. And it's like, well, okay, is it going to clean up all the garbage? Like it should have, because like I said, unless at this point, like I said, it's so disgusting out there that they finally, are using some of their tax dollars to do a cleanup, but it's,
Yeah.
a
Right.
thousand years too late at this point. Right. So, but that would be about the only thing that like I said, I'm like, okay, obviously I'm not expecting to go into too much, but I'm kind of like with Nathan, I'm just kind of like nitpicking. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's, to me, I would have rather them have had the mama crab fight them, right? Like I thought when the mama crab came over and knocked them off their ship, right? And then they have to do their thing. I thought at first then the mama crab was going to come over and attack their ship. To me, that would have made more sense because then it's just kind of like this garbage disposal pickup thing just randomly pops up out of nowhere. But that whole time that they were there trying to escape everything else, they didn't see it, didn't hear it. Like, is that just machine ran? Like, I get it, there's droids, or were there actual people working crews? Because you would think that, I mean, they can't be the only ones that have ever fallen off there, right? So I'm sure to prevent any type of lawsuits, the place would have to have, some type, I don't know. Like I said, it just felt so weird, like the way it was
Yeah.
just set up, right? And I was like, I have more questions than answers at this point of like how this place is in
Yeah.
operations. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Although, in fairness, this happens a lot in sci-fi, especially like fully established genre sci-fi. Like, there's lots of Star Trek episodes where when I stop and think about Planet of the Week, that I kind of go, wait, how does this planet even work? Like, how does he know? Especially old school TOS, the shore leave planet. Like,
yeah.
how did this even function when it wasn't broken? Like, I get that this episode about shore leave is, malfunctioning, but like when it's in proper working order, how does this work exactly? And don't people die here all the time? Anyway, but yeah, so yes, I can see where you're coming from with the trash compactor crew. More on that in a moment.
Well,
But Nathan,
I
yeah,
add one more
go ahead,
thing
go ahead.
too. They never explained what happened to the giant squid lobster guy. Like, so he helps them
Oh,
in
the
episode,
Cthulhu guy. Yeah.
yeah, they help him in episode 5, but then the pirates come. Like, how did the pirates even get down there to begin with from episode 5? Like, because all of them went down there, but then some of them survived, right? Because they're up at the top in episode 6.
Yeah.
But then
I
it's
think
like,
that I think one or two of the pirates that came to attack Jod
yeah,
knew about the base at Skull Mountain before, so they already knew the way in and out. Like somehow they worked with Dude Man Renault. What was his name?
Captain whatever.
The famous, yeah, Captain Renault. I think it's Renault. Anyway, the famous captain who had this place as a base and who was SM-33's previous owner. I think some of the people that were working with Brutus and Urkel were, part of that crew. and so they knew how to get in and out of that.
I feel like that guy was like anciently dead though. Like they wouldn't. I mean, not to say that the aliens can't live long times, but I feel like that was like at least a couple 100 years old. You know, in my opinion.
I don't think it was.
No,
I got the impression
because like,
that
how
it
did they
was fairly
crash into
recent.
At-Atten and nobody from At-Atten knew about it though? You know what I'm saying? Like we haven't discovered that yet. We don't know the whole conspiracy theory at At-Atten, but like
I wonder
to me, I
if some
assume
people
how close that was to residents. Like I know it was lost in the woods, but somebody would have had seen that. And to me,
feel
for
like
that
there
to
are some
happen,
people that they know and they're just like in on it. They're like, it was a weather balloon. You know what I mean? Like they're covering it up because somehow Captain
so
Renault
they
has,
brought dirt over and covered up, and that's fine if that's what ends up
Yeah.
happening. But to me, there was like enough underneath there that was like to have all that kind of corrosion and everything. I mean, I get it when it crashes into it, it would have dirt cover over it. But to me, that it seemed like it was a lot longer than just like, oh, it's only been 10 years since what's his name crashed into At-Atten.
Right.
See,
Anyways,
I felt like
Nathan,
10 years was about right. But anyways, yeah, so
what did you like the least?
I don't have a lot negative to say about this episode. I guess the things I like the least are the piratey things. You mentioned Urkel. I've forgotten the character's actual name, but we're going to call him Urkel.
Me too. I'm not sure we've had his actual name yet.
It's Jamal White.
Well,
no,
yeah, that's
Jaleel White is the actor's name.
The actor's
but
name.
his Star Wars name.
Oh,
yeah.
We'd have to look at his character. We'd have to look at IMDb.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think they've. I mean, they may have said it one time. You know,
he was definitely one of the pirates who went down the staircase where the acid filled in, and yet he's also one of the pirates who was up top. So just apparently he got out.
Gunter,
just fine. That's his name.
Gunter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Which I can kind of fill in and guess. Okay, well, he must have said, "You guys stay here and work on this door while I go back upstairs," and just not been down there when the acid came out. But honestly, this is more a problem from last week than this episode. It wasn't clear what happened with those guys, and then some of them are just fine.
Yeah, I could see Gunther being the kind of pirate that when the acid comes, he like grabs other people and throws them there so they can step on their bodies as they melt to death and climb out. You know,
that is true too. I could definitely see that, and I would also say that Jod talking his way out of the airlock sentence, while it was cool, seemed a little too easy. I feel like he should have had to have worked for that a little bit more. I mean, it wasn't super easy though. So again, these are minor nitpicks.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe Derek will bring this up. So, all right, yeah, Derek, what did you like?
Well, my answer is because you mentioned that he spent all of his attribute points in charisma. He spent all of his mana or magic pool points into Jedi Mind Tricks level 5, so he could cast that on a cool thing.
It would be kind of cool.
He's influencing the pirates because first of all, he's using the Jedi mind reading ability because he keeps telling each individual one about the thing they're dreaming about the most.
That's true.
The farm and the ship and yeah.
And that might actually be how he got out of the scrape on at whatever the other planet was.
Yeah, where he got the
when he sold the EOPs back.
EOPs, yes.
Or bought the EOPs back because he may have been doing the same thing where he's reading them and going, well, what you really want is this, so let me find a way to get you this. Yeah.
I'm just upset he still hasn't used his lightsaber yet, though.
But he's got it. It's Chekhov's lightsaber at this point.
It is, yeah. But I think all the other pirates would want that lightsaber if he whipped it out. So,
but he should be able to. He's good enough. He could beat any pirate that he has.
Well, yeah, but he's got to beat all the other pirates at the same time if he whips it out right now.
Maybe. But didn't Gunter take it though? I think Gunter took it though. I think
Gunter did take it. Yeah, it's been confiscated when they captured him.
Yeah.
Anyways, Derek, what did you like least about this episode?
I did. I went over it. Remember?
Oh,
Nathan was
right. You went.
Nathan was last.
Nathan was last.
Yep.
My bad. Yes. Yeah. All right. Cool. Question number 3, Derek. What did you find that connects to other parts of the Star Wars galaxy?
Well, I mean, I'll let you guys go into it. All I gotta say is that as much as it is, we need a spin-off series of Kelly McDonald playing Pockets. I want more Pockets. I want to know everything about Pockets.
It
I
has
was a
pockets.
great character. I hope we get her more in episode 7. But I don't think we will because she's obviously working for whatever the Wolfman as a credit and got her
Brutus.
thing. And so we move on from there. But yeah, I would like a Pocket spinoff series, even if it's animation at this point, just like we got um Ming Nong Wing's Fennec Shan. So
Yeah.
get more of that, because to me, bounty hunters always make the most interesting characters. I mean, obviously, so
Yeah.
does Jod, and what we have with Crimson Jack. But more of that. So
Yeah. All right. Cool. Cool. I have two. First of all, Judd Nawood got yet another nickname. And so that was cool. I think we're continuing this. Actually, he's up. Sorry, he got two last week. So if we average them out, that means that we're continuing him getting a new name, one per episode. And then I also liked the thing that was going to incinerate the Onyx Cinder, like the big crawling droid of incinerator doom. It was basically the trash compactor from episode 4. And when the kids are in the ship and the ship's getting crunched and crunched and crunched, they're all like, ah. I mean, if I didn't know better, I thought I might have heard a little bit of a musical riff that was like the trash compactor riff as they were trying to figure out what can we do to make the engine work better? What can we do to make the thing stop eating us? And Wim tries to blast it, and all the things that they're trying to do to stop the trash compactor fail until they find the one particular button to push. Now, on the Death Star, it was R2-D2 that had to push the button, but here on the Onyx Cinder, it was the kid that had to push the button. Either way, you must find the correct button to get out of the death trap. And then we got that awesome moment that Derek was talking about earlier, where the Onyx Cinder split out of its old shell and was now this super sleek, vaguely reminiscent of the Naboo Starfighter, or Naboo Cruiser that Natalie Portman as Queen Amidala had in Episode 1, with its arrangement and how it was flying. So that was kind of cool. It wasn't as bright and shiny, but it was definitely shinier after it blew off the hull and flew away from the incinerator bot. Nathan, what do you got?
All right, well, I've got two things, and they both have to do with crabs. One of the crabs had a stormtrooper helmet on.
Oh, cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But the other thing was the comment about, well, they can speak, so they must be intelligent, is an opposite of the ability to speak does not make one intelligent. Jar Jar.
That's the second Qui-Gon Jinn reference, because remember, Crimson Jack told the kids, your focus determines your reality.
Yep.
Nice. Good pickup. I didn't notice either one of those things, especially not the Stormtrooper helmet. Now definitely got to go back and watch this episode.
Yeah, the Stormtrooper helmet I did not catch on first watch, but the ability to speak, like they're speaking, so they must be intelligent. I immediately was doing the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen. Hey, he said that thing. He said that thing.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, cool. Good pickups. Good pickups. All right, let's move on to question 4. I created question 4 this week, so I'll ask the question: is KB paralyzed, like all the way, and unable to move at all without her servos? Because when she starts to break down, I expected her to lose computing power, maybe her factual recall, her data recall, maybe even her ability to do calculations and be the smart girl. I did not ever expect that meant that she'd not be able to walk, and then eventually she couldn't use her hands. It was pretty terrifying, actually. Kind of body horror moment, because after all that occurred, in order to fix her, she had to open a giant cavity in her own head. And Wim was basically shoving metal into her brain. That was kind of squigging me out, you guys. So, yeah, the question is, if it wasn't for all that stuff up there, and then obviously she's got other pieces of electronics or cybernetics in her body, would she be totally paraplegic? Or, I mean, she seemed to imply that if I've been set up in such a way that if this all shuts down, I'm dead. What do we think? I think the answer is yes, that she has to have this to live. It's not an enhancement, it's a compensation. But Nathan, what do you think?
Well, they did mention something about an accident. We still don't have the details on that, but something happened. This was not, she was born this way. this is not, we chose to do these enhancements. It was definitely, we are repairing an accident. I'm not sure how much of the inability to move stems directly from the accident and how much is from the cybernetics. I tend to think it might be a little bit more from the cybernetics, because it doesn't seem like the rest of her body just dies. It's almost like it's just not getting signal. Like whatever the cybernetic enhancements do, they get the signal from her brain to her spinal column so that she can tell the rest of her body to move. And if she can't do that, then the rest of her body would eventually shut down, but more because it's not getting signals from the brain, not because there's anything technically wrong with the rest of her body, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So it's that she basically has a spinal cord injury, and her muscles and bones are fine. It's just there's no signal.
Right. That's what I think, but that's purely speculation. So I'd love to hear what y'all
Yeah.
think.
Derek, what do you think? Is KB totally paralyzed, like, and it's just a signal thing, or?
No, I'm kind of with Nathan, right? Because the way the back slot goes into it, right? Like it's almost like a hard drive, right? Like so
Mm-hmm.
the hardware's there, but if you don't have the system computing with what it needs to do for her to operate, the hardware doesn't work, right? So it
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean she would be dead, like she would die. She just would be completely immobile, right? Where she wouldn't be able to really do much other than just kind of stand there. I mean, her speech definitely slows down, right? Her responses and her she gets quieter and quieter. So it could be where she just kind of shuts down and it just kind of goes almost into like a droid, sleep mode too. Or does the body completely shut down and she would die, right? We don't
Like
know
does
the
her
answer
heart
to that.
stop as well
Yeah,
as her arms
correct.
and
Yeah, we
legs?
don't know that, right?
Yeah.
Or does she just go into a sleep mode, right? Like I was saying. So where the body's still at least like, still able to pump, oxygen, air, whatever they use, right, in the blood and all that stuff. But and it was just weird though that like it was easy enough for what Wim was able to do to able to save her though. And it's like she was talking about like, well, I haven't had maintenance in several days, right? Blah blah blah. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, but if what Wim did, like, she couldn't do that on her own at any point in time, like, you would think that at some point, especially specifically, they've designed this sophisticated system, like it always has to require somebody else to help you, right? Like, I don't know, right? Like, you would think that they'd be able to save themselves, right? I mean, I know that her body was shutting down, but at that point, like I said, it just seemed a little weird.
Well,
She probably waited too late. I mean, she is still what, like an 11, 12-year-old girl, right? She waited too late to do the maintenance, because she probably
Well,
kept thinking, oh, any minute now we're gonna find a way back home, and mom and my parents can fix me.
like I just was well, sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
they also mentioned the atmosphere on this planet is different from what they've been in. So I think something about the atmosphere on the Pleasure Planet messes with the circuits. So she wasn't expecting to need to do this maintenance yet, but going through the whole pirate base accelerated whatever deterioration there was.
I
The
mean, she's
sludge
hanging out on the
got
beach.
suddenly
Got the salt. Yeah, the salt air from the beach
exactly.
is messing with the battery terminals. She's corroding. Yeah.
But like I said, to me, it's like when the kids were all arguing when their breakup and stuff. Like, to me, I'm sorry, but I get it. She's a kid. I get that, and there's supposed to be drama and all that stuff. But to me, it's like, okay, everybody, time out. I know she was embarrassed to say that, but at the same time, though, like it's not like Fern didn't help her at the beginning in the episode 1 with that stuff, right? Like they were doing
True.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? To me, it's like where that was the I guess maybe the one thing where I get what she's saying, and like I said, I appreciate what they were trying to communicate, but at the same time, it's like, but Fern knew though, like I don't understand that.
Oh my gosh, you guys! I just realized what this is a reference to. It's Mikey and his inhaler in Goonies, and eventually he's just like, screw it, and because he decides he doesn't need it anymore. But like they get down in the cave in the pirate base in Goonies, and he runs out of aerosol in his inhaler.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Fascinating.
But
anyways,
we did have we had a whole storyline about how Fern treats KB as though she doesn't have any disability, and I think KB, but because she wants to maintain that friendship and she sees Fern treating her as not having that disability as a requirement of that friendship, she doesn't want to bring up, hey, I need you to recognize this disability and do something about it because I need this accommodation. Um, it's like accommodations in school. Sometimes students don't want accommodations even when they need them because they feel like that makes them lesser or something. But really,
Yeah, or
accommodations
at
in
least
school,
separate, different.
Yeah.
yeah. But really, those accommodations are designed to even the playing field because that student needs help to be able to compete with everybody else. So I think it's a little bit of that. She doesn't want to be seen as someone who has a disability. She doesn't want other people in the group of kids. She doesn't want her peers to see her as the disabled one. So she doesn't want to bring it up. And then as a kid, she just, like Scott said, waits too late, gets into an environment where, it's worse than normal. And then it's an emergency.
And like I said, I get that, right? Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. To me, it's just I would have thought she would have been more comfortable with having Fern take shit out of the back of her head and then Wim do it. You know what I'm saying? Like at that point, it like you said, it's just
Well,
she's gonna die if she doesn't, right?
She probably would have been more comfortable with Fern doing
that's what I'm
it,
saying.
but,
Like,
but at that point, it was too late.
But I'm saying, but
She's
to
got
me,
no
that's
choice.
where I just thought she would have. But again, that was my funny point of making like they didn't design anything for her to be able to do this on her own. Like it requires
Right.
somebody else to be
Well,
there, and it's like okay, like she couldn't have done this while they were walking. Like she had to wait till the
maybe-
last minute. I don't know.
Maybe it doesn't require somebody else normally, but maybe she has something at home where
Yeah, maybe I don't know what the maintenance is, right? Like I said, so it just
it could be.
seems-
I plug into my alcove and it does the thing for me.
Yeah.
But
What
the alcove's back
broke
on
my
Manhattan.
what broke my suspension of disbelief for the scene for just a tiny bit was the don't worry, I can melt metal and form new parts for this obviously precision electronic life-saving equipment here in the sand on the beach. No problem. No problem.
I
Just
think that's
pour
gonna
it right into this.
yeah.
I think that's going to come back up actually, because
I hope so.
I don't think they made a long-term fix, and I think
No,
in an
no. I hope
episode
that
or
it
two,
turns
it's
out
just
that
going to be
Wim's-
like, guys.
At the critical moment, the replacement part is going to blow out
Short
the back
circuit.
of KB's head. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's just going to be all like, "Oh crap!"
Hopefully,
No,
she doesn't
sorry.
become
Oh.
just the only way they could save her is by uploading her to the Onyx Cinder.
That's it. Yeah, she's just
We've
like,
already done
"Oh
that
crap!"
story.
She's gonna be like LLEE7.
3-7.
No, she's
Yeah.
she's going to be holding a blaster on somebody, and but then she'll freeze, and everybody will be like, "Oh man, you did
forgot
such a
to
great
oil her."
job of holding them down with that blaster," and she's gonna be like,
Yeah,
no, I just can't move."
She's like the Tin Man.
yeah. It'll be all, "Wow, the epic death stare! You didn't even blink. I can't blink." Yeah. All right. Question number 5. Nathan, take it away.
All right, so this emergency hull demolition sequencer, really cool new tech, but how exactly does this work?
Well, you push the button and stuff blows up. That's all I got, really.
Yeah,
no, I
it's-
think
it's
it's
skin.
I think the ship had extra armor added to it when Captain Renault. I mean, it's driving me crazy. I had to look up that name. When Captain R decided that they were going to make a run for it at Atten, and they know that the barrier is there, but they don't really know what the barrier is because no one's ever been here and returned before. And so they up-armored the Onyx Cinder, thinking they'd need to blast their way or plow their way through the big green mist barrier. And the emergency demolition sequencer is in case all the armor gets like ripped to pieces and the other new engines fail out because of the barrier, and now it becomes dead weight, and they got to basically eject the core to get out of the jam that they've caused by battering ramming their way through the atmosphere or the barrier around at Atten. Turns out that it didn't do anything like that, and so they were fine until they had a mutiny, and then that's
Well,
how they crashed.
Yeah, I was going to say they weren't exactly fine on that Atten.
Yeah, they were fine right up to that point where everything went to total criff. That's
right,
my
Derek?
theory about how the demolition sequencer works.
Derek, what do you get?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Let's got finished. So, no, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of the same thing where it's almost kind of like for that to happen, it almost has to be like a magnetic press, like armor on top of it, so that it can, in sequence, like shed it, like the way it happened to be. That like, oh, we know we need to break from the back to the front, and the way it was doing. So it's an interesting concept. Like I said, it surprised me, right? Like I was expecting, the button to make them go into ludicrous speed, and that's how they were going to get out of the jam that they were. But or it really just
You
blows
never
up the
go
ship.
into hyperspace inside a planetary atmosphere. I never asked that question until I tried it.
Yes. So yeah, they're gonna do a hold them maneuver. I don't know. So but
No,
but
Nathan, here's what it was. They had to polarize the hull plating.
There
That's
you
how
go.
it works.
Well, the trash compactor was crumpling the logic conundrum proof crumple zones. So he just blew those out.
Those kids escaped? I'm shocked. Well, not that shocked.
So I think that this wasn't really meant to take care of something that was damaging the outside of the ship. I think this was a quick change process. That the whole point is this ship now looks like a whole new ship. When Jod sees this
changing their
ship,
license plate, huh?
exactly. When Jod sees the ship,
Yeah.
he's not going to go, "Oh, look, it's the Onyx Cinder." He's going to go, "I have no idea what ship this is," until he gets aboard, and then the inside is all the same.
The same. Yeah.
But just looking at it, it looks like a whole new ship, to the point that Wim even says, claims he's on the new ship.
He did say that. You're right.
It's not a new ship. It's the same ship, just with a different hull. But to everybody else, it's going to look like a new ship. So I think it was originally designed to be oh, shoot, they've cornered us. But as long as we can get behind this asteroid, boom, hey, we come out the other side. Nope, they went that way.
It's like Derek was saying about changing the license plate from presumably, Derek, that was a reference to Bond. But also it could be a reference to one of the Fast and the Furious movies where they drive all of the street racer cars into a car wash that doubles as a paint booth, and all the cars come out the other side different new colors. And the cops are all like, wait, what? Which of these is are the bad guys?
But you got me thinking now, Scott, when you mentioned the Goonies reference. Don't they do that in the Goonies with their car when they change and it's the license plate when they discover the house? I'll have to watch Goonies again now because I
think
feel
you might be right.
Because then they say, like, when he finds the car in the barn, and then I feel like the license plate was, I don't remember, but it was something to do with that, right? So anyways, it's probably another Goonies reference to some degree, or just, in general, right? Like, what was the one car that magically could change? What was the series that it changed? That was from like the black car to the red sports car that we got like in the mid 90s or early. It was like a Knight Rider ripoff.
I mean, obviously there are Transformers, but that's not.
No, it was a show I used to watch, and it used to be able to change from one car to another. It was like a roadster to like a race car to something else. Like, I can't remember. I went to Google this. It was probably like 1 or 2 seasons on like,
I vaguely recall what you're talking about, Derek. But yeah, that's probably a reference to something along those lines. Anyways, a really cool new technology, though. You were right about that, Derek. And great question 5 there, Nathan. So yeah. Of course, it's obviously a one-trick pony, but if it works, you live to fight another day, and the kids have done that. So long as the engine holds out.
Viper was the TV series.
Yes, you're right, and it was sponsored, of course, by Dodge because they made the Viper sports car at that moment in time. Anyway, so yeah, it until the engine on the Onyx Cinder holds out, that is, because we saw KB basically banging on it with the wrench, and it wasn't really a wrench, but they had me the hydro spanner.
Some percussive maintenance there.
Yes. So clearly that is a reference to how the engine is going to fail when they need it most. Just like
KB
Jack is going to get that lightsaber.
I was thinking KB too.
Yeah, KB is going to fail when they
everything's going to shut down.
It's going to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
The engines are going to fail and everybody's going to be like, KB,
and like, no problem, KB can fix it. And she'll be all, I can't move.
And poor Smee got shot. I was so great when he came up, and he's like, attack Smee, and then he gets shot. And he's like, I'm like,
I should have mentioned that in question 3. Urkel had a ion gun. I think he brought it just because he knew that Smee might be a problem. Yep. So eat that, Jawa.
Well, poor Smeed, between the ion gun and the restraining bolt, he just cannot
Yeah.
commit a violence.
No, he's all like, need to be psychotic. Anyway. All right. Well, speaking of Star Wars connections, after we take a short break, we're going to talk about what our friends at IGN have predicted we can expect from Star Wars here in the year 2025. Some of it's great, some of it's kind of depressing, but we'll talk about it right after this word from our friend Kevin.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, thanks so much, Kevin. Please check out those other shows on the FPN, guys. Well, our friends at IGN, specifically Jesse Sheedon and Alan Wheeler, have come out with an article there on their site to talk about what we can expect from Star Wars during the year 2025. There have been some really important things announced, and things that fans are really looking forward to in this year that we know have been confirmed are going to be released during 2025. Perhaps not as many things have been confirmed as being released as one might hope, but we still got some great stuff to look forward to, guys. Most notably for me and most fans, I think, is Andor returns for Season 2. Now, this is the big news, or at the moment anyway, the marquee attraction for Star Wars on Disney Plus, or really anywhere that is happening in 25. Guys, Season 2 is chronicling the second half of the deep introspective origin story of Cassian Andor. Season 1 was basically about how young Cassian became radicalized and joined not just the rebellion, but the very partisan side, almost working hand in glove with people like Saw Gerrera, who are willing to be a little more edgy when it comes to accomplishing their goals of destroying and defeating the Empire. It's all about him getting to that point of how he was almost just bleak when it comes to the beginning of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. But of course, Jyn Erso helps him to find that light within himself again, where he is willing not only to be violent and destructive to stop the Empire, but also to be self-sacrificial, and, dare I say, a tiny bit of his nobility returns before he meets his fateful end there on Scarif. But this season of Andor is also notable because guess who's coming back, you guys?
It's Alan Tudyk, man
It
of
is
a
Alan
million
Tudyk.
voices. I'm not going to say
Yes.
1,000 at this point.
No.
He is one of the most prolific actors and voice actors of our current age. He's in
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
He's in
exactly.
lots.
And
He's
he
in lots
will
of
be
Disney stuff.
back.
He's in the new DC cinematic universe as well. He's going to be Clayface.
Yeah. And he will be back here in Andor Season 2 as, of course, K2SO, the voice of the
Right.
droid that... And presumably we're going to see how Cassian reprograms K2SO to become the lovable curmudgeon that we meet in Rogue One.
Yeah, and I hope that's fairly early on because I'd like to see K2SO in a lot of episodes. I hope it's not a finale
last 3.
episode. Like,
Yeah, right.
oh, and by the
shows up
way,
just
I
as
pressed
often-
this button.
He shows up just as often as Moff Gideon does in The Mandalorian. Aw.
I don't think I think we'll get him for at least half the season, because you have to think that they do have a really good relationship, right? So you would think it would because the way the last 3 episodes of the 4th arc are going to be is that it's going to end like basically right before Rogue One kicks off, right? Like they're going to be assigned the mission to go rescue Jyn. So they have to have at least one other adventure prior to that. So you're at least going to get them for 6 episodes. But I'm with you, right? Like maybe, all of the season would be great because they're basically going to be time jumps between each of the arcs, a year or 2 between each one. So,
and speaking of returns, we have gotten confirmation that Orson Krennic is coming back and Ben Mendelsohn is going to play him. So it'll be really cool to see him put on the white dress uniform.
That I assume is going to be a quick cameo, though, or at least part of just the season 3. Or I'm sorry, the last 3 episodes of the final arc. So
yeah.
So that we got that
I'm
to
more
look
okay
forward
with that.
Yeah. And the only other Disney Plus thing, series-wise, that has been confirmed that will come out this year is over on the animated side. So the Bad Batch is done. Obviously, Clone Wars is done. Rebels is done.
Is it though?
Well, maybe, but for sure, we're gonna get season 3 of Star Wars Visions. So the anime kind of anthology style animated project here. Fans will be treated to an anthology of animated shorts featuring various animation studios interpreting the mythology of Star Wars through their own unique lens. Season 3 is said to bring Visions back to its roots as an anime anthology, whereas Season 2 took a more global approach. The studios involved and announced for Season 3 include Cyberpunk Edge Runners Studio Trigger and Attack on Titan's WIT Studio, along with David Production, Kamikaze Doga, Anima, Kinema Citrus Company, Polygon Pictures, Production IG, and Project Studio Q. So I don't recognize any of those other ones, but I did recognize Studio Trigger and, of course, WIT Studio from Attack on Titan. I'm excited that they're kind of going back to their anime roots. I think that was when it was most popular. While I greatly enjoyed almost every part of Season 2, a couple of them were a bit of a snooze fest. So seeing it go back toward things like we saw with the Ninth Jedi and all that stuff, sounds like a good idea. What do you guys think about the announcement of Star Wars Visions Season 3?
I'm very excited about it. I love Visions. Season 2, I felt like there were no terrible episodes, but I would describe it as Season 1 had higher highs, but also lower lows. And overall, I think that ends up being better than what we got in Season 2, where everything was good, but nothing was stellar.
Nothing sticks out.
Yeah, nothing sticks out. If you ask me my favorite episodes of Visions, it's things like The Ninth Jedi or The Ronin, the very first episode. Mm-hmm. It's stuff from Season 1 that really stands out because those are the greatest episodes. Other than the one Wallace and Gromit style episode in Season 2. I did love that one.
I liked Tatooine Rhapsody as well, but yeah.
Yeah, that one.
That to me is still, yeah. I think that's an underappreciated episode.
But hey, this is one of the great things about Visions. There's a lot of different things in it. So there might be episodes that you guys love and I'm just like, I don't care, and vice versa. So,
yeah. By the way, I mean, Production IG is the one who did The Ninth Jedi, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Oh, well, good. Yeah. I'm very happy to see that.
We might get the second part of that because remember we heard rumors that they were supposed to get their own series for it, and then that kind of fell off. So I'm hoping we at least get the 10th Jedi at this point, or 9.5, whatever we want to say. So, but yeah, I hope we get the continuation. I'm with you guys on it. I I really liked season 2, so I'm okay. I mean, did you say that this was going to be the final season or just the next season?
Just the next season.
Just the
officially.
next
I don't think
Okay.
it's
So
yeah.
so there's a chance that if they do well with this and they go to a 4th season, they could go back to it where it's like, okay, we're going to, give it to some other studios, because I really liked that. I mean, I liked the idea of having other countries, other writers, other people tell their version of Star Wars, because you can really see some of the influentials out of it. We talked about it, right? Where we could definitely recognize, oh, here's some of the animation styles that we know, right? That come from some of our other beloved shows that we've developed over all these, 30, 40 years of cartoons and animation, right? To your point, Nathan, right? The writers of Wallace and Gromit and stuff like that. And some of the other styles, even though we may not say that they were great, but again, I still appreciate them allowing that. But yeah, I think going back to the roots for season 3 is good. Let's, get some of these production studios back in. Let's get some new ones. Obviously, the fact that they're getting some of these high profile studios who have done some of the more recent, well-received animes, or the ones that people are really, help bring in some fresh viewers maybe. Or bring back the viewers that might have been there for season 1 but not for season 2, because
Right.
I do think that this was one of their best concepts. Again, you could think of it as it's a part of the multiverse or not, whatever you want to look at. I mean, doesn't mean it, but it's nice to get new stories, right? Like I would like it, where they not every one of them had to deal with Jedi, right? Some of them dealt with just regular civilians, right? Like we've talked about this, right? Like I want my Tales of the Cantina. I don't need the Tales of the Jedi or the Tales of the Empire. I want my Tales of the Cantina. I want, like I mentioned, I want more pockets. I don't need Jedi.
Yeah.
I want, bounty hunters. I want smugglers. I want things that are revolved around the rest of that large galaxy that we're supposed to be having, right? So yeah, I'm excited for season 3. Again, I don't think it'll be the only animation. I thought I heard rumblings even after they let go of the group in, was it Malaysia or China who did Clone Wars?
Korea,
Was it Korea?
something
Who'd they
like that.
release?
It's
I'm not sure.
a
I can't remember.
particular Asian country.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry, I can't remember where it was from, right? But they released them. But then there was rumors that Disney was trying to hire some local within the North America, were trying to hire animation artists. And there was rumor that Dave Filoni had another project he was trying to push, which to me, it's like, okay, do we get the Omega solo series or the next portion that involves her character, right? Because we know Dave is never going to not do something with clones at this point, or Ahsoka. I know he's working on that now, but doesn't mean that he still hasn't been doing other things already in the works, right? That they just need to get the production going. So I imagine, we talked about it, right? When we get Star Wars Celebration in Japan this year, I have an inclination that we'll get another announcement for some other animation this time around.
Well, and I wouldn't
the
be
author,
surprised.
right? The author of this piece talks about how there's nothing else really announced for Disney Plus streaming, live action or animation for 2025. But and so that seems a little sparse compared to 2024, because we had 2 live action series and also 2 animated series with The Bad Batch season 3 and Tales of the Empire. That's actually a lot of Star Wars. I keep trying to talk to all the younger fans out there, and now that I'm 47, that includes most fans, is telling them about how you guys don't understand how long it used to be between a new Star Wars project. At least 3 years between the original films, and then later between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace, especially when George Lucas was all like, I'm done.
Yeah, it's all novels, comics, and maybe an occasional game every 5 to 10 years.
And you'd hope that the novels would come out on time, and then there'd be some kind of delay. And then Marvel was like, "Oh, we're done with Star Wars comics." And then Dark Horse took it over. We're like, "Oh, it's like the holy grail of Star Wars stuff," and so on and so forth. But I mean, to sit here and say, "Oh man, we're only getting 1 TV show and 1 cartoon this year," lame. I'm like, really? Have we lost that much perspective? But as you guys just mentioned about Star Wars Celebration Japan is coming, I expect that we'll hear some announcements of new projects, because we didn't know about Tales of the Empire until a month before it was coming out. There was like no promo, no preamble,
Yeah,
And
and
by
I
the
could
way-
definitely see another Tales of insert whatever.
Yeah. Well, it'd be
Go
Jedi.
ahead.
It'd probably be Jedi season 2, right? Because the Empire is technically a different series, right?
I hope that Derek is correct though, and it's Tales of the Cantina. That would be
That would be
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Tales
Well,
of Bounty Hunter.
and that would tie into those old. They weren't really novels, but expanded universe books that you were talking about, Scott. We had Tales of the Cantina as one of those.
Yes,
books.
absolutely. Yep.
Or
Well,
Tales of
speaking of
Jabba's
books,
Palace.
Oh, and I was just gonna say
Right.
though, but it would be really cool though if we get Visions season 3, says it's Japanese animation the same time that Star Wars Celebration is going on, since it's in Japan. So if they don't have that
would be-
start at the same time, where they'll do like a big premiere at one of the days there, right, where they release it, and then they'll have theaters set up or whatever to show that, and then we'll get it either within 24 hours or the same day, that night, right? Because obviously Japan's ahead of us by several hours, but
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if actually I'd be disappointed if it's not aligned, because that to me is how would you
that would be
not,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
Especially since
that
they're
would be
pushing all that, the ID cards and everything, right? So
it'd be a big
Yeah.
marketing miss if
Mhm.
it's not there. Yeah, but with Star Wars Celebration happening this year, I'm not surprised that we don't have as much stuff announced at this point, because they've got to save some of it for Celebration. They're not going to have Star Wars Celebration and not make announcements. When we were at Star Wars Celebration, they announced Episode 9, and that's when we learned that Palpatine was going to be in it, with Ian McDiarmid's iconic laugh at the end of it. Yeah, and we were all panicking and freaking out because, like, wait a minute, is he going to be in this? How does that even make sense? And the answer is it doesn't really, but that's a whole nother matter.
Somehow.
clones.
Palpatine returned.
Anyways, speaking of Star Wars books, like we just talked about the old Tales of Jabba's Palace and so forth, there is a pretty big thing happening in the year 2025 for Star Wars publishing, and that is the end of the High Republic. So things are looking a little barren on the live-action front right now for Star Wars, but for the publishing side of things, there's lots happening. It is the end of Lucasfilm Publishing's High Republic saga. For the past several years, these books and comics have been exploring the triumphs and tribulations of the Jedi hundreds of years before the Star Wars movies, and it will all come to an end in 2025. Several major High Republic novels will be released this year, including Charles Soule's The High Republic Trials of the Jedi, Claudia Gray's The High Republic Into the Light, and Justina Ireland's The High Republic A Valiant Vow. Of these, Trials of the Jedi is the one most worth keeping an eye on, so says our author here at IGN, as it serves as the climax of the entire High Republic initiative. This novel will chronicle the final battle between the Jedi and the Nihil and the Nameless. Look for Trials of the Jedi to be released on June the 17th. So guys, I know what my beach read will be this year, because I have this crazy plan to read all the preceding novels before June of 2020.
Good luck.
If anybody
Reading
can do
them
it,
or
actually,
audiobooks?
what I'm about to say, what I should do is audiobook the preceding novels, because then I really could get it done before June and then read the finale.
I mean, I've had a couple of them. Like I said, I enjoy them. I'm gonna say that I'm pretty shocked though that they're already kind of, and this is where it's like, okay, did they? I don't know. Did you read any of the comics, Scott, yet or no?
I've read a few of the comics. Yeah.
What was your interpretation of them? I mean,
I thought they were pretty good. I feel like they're very much ancillary to the novels. Like this whole High Republic thing seems like novels are, S level,
like
canon.
the movies,
Comics, comics are A level canon, and then tie in things like video games or novellas are like B level canon. Yeah, not that Disney era Lucasfilm wants to do various levels of canon, but let's be honest, they still do it. Video game stuff isn't considered as definitive as a movie, then even a streaming series on Disney Plus isn't considered as definitive as a movie. So that was kind of my take on the different levels of it.
Because I mean, like I said, I've done a couple. I mean, I have some more. I'm trying to finish up. I'm on the third book of the second series of Thrawn from the new stuff from Timothy Zahn. So on the Chiss Ascendancy. and I'm just kind of just started book 3 a couple weeks ago, but it's kind of been on hiatus just because of Christmas time and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to pick that back up here in about a week or two, depending on because I'll have some travel coming up here at the end of the month. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to jumping back into it. I'm just shocked that it's only lasted 3 years for them to
Well, I thought
kind
it had
of.
been.
The
thought it had
first
been
book
5
came out in
years. Has it only been
2021.
3? Wow. Well, they did say they didn't want to have as many sprawling, 100-part stories like the old EU. So at least they're
Yeah,
keeping
but
to
to
their
me, I
guns.
felt like if you're gonna close it up, like I don't know why you would announce though. Like I get like I guess if you're wanting to kind of like this is where we jump into the Grand Republic then, right? At this point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, but wouldn't you want to keep going back to it at some point and just continue to add more stories to it, right? I don't know. Like it just seems like a dumb way to kind of like end like what you're supposed to be creating this whole new era of Star Wars, and you've only taken 3.5 years because I think it came out in July of 2021. So you're gonna have maybe 4 years worth of material. I don't know. I feel like that's just a waste of time because to me, I mean, you created to me, it was like I said, it's nothing's wrong with that. I think it's been pretty good. The fact that they've created this threat and they're working on it and all this stuff, that's fine if you want to end that threat. But I don't know, the way they're making it sound like, at least in this article, is like, oh, it's the end of the High Republic. And it's like, well, you're not going to go back anymore with it or what?
Well, I do wonder if the failure of the Acolyte is weighing in on that decision. If that series had
Maybe.
gone better, they may have said, well, people really like this High Republic stuff, but with it not doing well, they may have misattributed the Acolyte not doing well to, well, people don't really care about the High Republic instead of, all the other problems with
the actual other issues of it. Yeah.
Because let's be honest, there were issues. I enjoyed large portions of it,
but it wasn't the era
course,
that was
yeah.
the issue. Let's be honest.
Exactly. That's the thing. But it's easy. It's easy for someone who is a corporate executive,
correct,
who isn't really tied in with the fans,
who isn't smart,
to see, oh, this didn't do well. What's the easy thing for me to blame?
Yeah, let's just cut our losses.
This is in a different era than the stuff that we've had be successful. So that must be it, without actually thinking about it.
Because current TV and series is so stupid because it's like you give everything 6 or 8 episodes and it's like season 1 failed. It's go good. It's like, well, yeah, 1, you didn't give any character depth. You ran 30 minutes on every episode. What do you expect, right? It's like, give us good writing, give us some good stuff. I mean, let's be honest though. I mean, Rogue One was fantastic. So you had some good characters already developed into it. And what Tony Wright's been doing, it's been phenomenal. Or Gilroy, I'm sorry. What he's been writing with it's been phenomenal. But again, that was my problem with who wrote The Acolyte, was that they were just inexperienced people. Like they wanted to give diversity and DIE inclusion or DEI inclusion and all that stuff, which again, I'm all for, but you got to give them guidance, right? And it's like, well, it's a complete failure because we had a bunch of people bomb, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like,
which did happen.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but at the end of the day,
it doesn't mean that there weren't also issues with the show.
But that's to say, but it doesn't mean that the High Republic was a failure and that we should cut our ties with it. It's like, no, you stick with it.
I don't think the Acolyte's outcome or reception had anything to do with the plan to end the High Republic. They sort of announced they were going to end the High Republic when they began it. They were like, here are the ways we're going to do it, and here's the time span that we wanted to cover. I felt like, as somebody who's mildly paid attention to the High Republic, very mildly, I knew that this was going to be the last year. So, yeah, it's not a surprise to me, and I don't think that the decision was made recently. I think they made the decision back at day one. So maybe. Anyway, but speaking of other publishing efforts, we still got plenty of Star Wars Marvel comics happening because corporate synergy, baby. We own Marvel. We own Star Wars. Let's just smash them together. And honestly, 2024 was a pretty good year for Marvel Star Wars comics. Most of the books published during that year by Marvel were exploring the time period that happens between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So we had very classic Galactic Civil War, OG trilogy storylines happening. But most of those books have ended, and so I think Marvel has a plan for this year to cast a much wider net. According to our friend here at IGN, there'll be multiple Star Wars eras covered in Marvel Comics during 25. First of all, Marvel will wrap up the limited series Star Wars The Battle of Jakku this month in January. This series has been busy fleshing out the final major battle between the dying Empire and the New Republic 2 years after Return of the Jedi, and it will see the climax unfold as writer Alex Segura and artist Jethro Morales and Leonard Kirk do The Battle of Jakku Last Stand. So the final defeat of the traditional Empire. Obviously, splinter groups exist, with Moff Gideon and Captain Pellaeon and Grand Admiral Thrawn still doing stuff during the era of the Mandalorian, but the Battle of Jakku comic series Last Stand takes place before the era of the Mandalorian. From there, Marvel is veering off into two very different directions with its newest ongoing Star Wars comics. First up, writer Mark Guggenheim and artist Medivh Musabekov, you're welcome, are heading on to the prequel era with Star Wars Jedi Knights. So not the video game, but the prequel era. It is set before The Phantom Menace and will follow numerous members of the Jedi Order, including Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Mace Windu, and Shak-Ti. I wonder if we'll get to watch Shak-Ti die yet another time in canon.
You know, she needs to die in each episode.
Oh my God, they killed Shak-Ti!
Yes!
You do know, though, right? She's most well known for being, one of the greatest leaders of the clones. So maybe she's just a clone herself.
Maybe.
Oh, that'd be amazing if there were multiple versions of her. And so every time we've watched her die, it was some other version of her. And the Shak-Ti Prime is still alive.
Time to activate the new Shak-Ti.
Yeah, exactly. The series even focuses on Count Dooku before he defected and became a Dark Jedi. So that's fun. I always like stories about good guy Count Dooku because, Christopher Lee was such a great actor. When he was telling Obi-Wan all of those reasons in episode 2 about the whole thing that I'm doing is actually a good thing, I was all, maybe.
He's a Sith. He's a Sith. The Sith always lie by telling the truth, but they always lie.
Exactly.
We all admit, though, the Jedi deserve to get what they got, so maybe he wasn't 100%.
Count Dooku's making some good points over here, you guys. Okay.
He's just doing what we're afraid to do, that's all. So.
Yep. So anyway, elsewhere, Marvel is venturing deep into the era of the sequel trilogy for Charles Soule and Luke Ross's Star Wars Legacy of Vader. Set between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, the series explores Kylo Ren's struggle as the newly crowned Supreme Leader of the First Order, and his quest to recommit himself to the dark side following his battles with Rey.
Gotta work on those abs so he can be shirtless.
That's right.
That's right. Shirtless Kylo Ren. Soule previously fleshed out Ben Solo's dark side origins in 2020 with Star Wars, The Rise of Kylo Ren. So this series is going to be like a sequel to that. So Legacy of Vader. I'm definitely going to be getting that one. My son Joseph loves Kylo Ren as a character and always has, so I will probably share that book with him. I might even go to a comic shop and get a pull list going for Star Wars comics. We have to assume, our writer continues, these aren't the only new Star Wars comics Marvel will be launching in 25, as the publisher has tended to publish 4 or 5 ongoing titles just within Star Wars. At any given time, maybe Dr. Aphra will get a solo book. We might see other books fleshing out the blank canvas that is the post-Return of the Jedi era. Only time will tell. Now, in addition to comics, other ancillary media that Lucasfilm likes to use here in the new millennium is, of course, video games. But if you thought there weren't very many Disney Plus projects announced, we have very few Star Wars video games that have actually been announced for this year. In fact, none of the confirmed releases for software are new games. We just have confirmation that there's going to be DLC for Star Wars Outlaws. Fans can expect a new story campaign called A Pirate's Fortune to be released this spring, and it focuses on fan favorite pirate villain, or maybe you might want to call him an anti-hero, Hondo Onaka, who will be making his Star Wars Outlaw DLC debut. As he
I
bumps
cannot allow this besmirchment of his name to continue. He is not an anti-hero. He is just a straight-up hero. Hondo.
But beyond that, beyond Hondo coming to Star Wars Outlaws, there is the possibility that Electronic Arts is developing a third game in the Star Wars Jedi series. But with there being 4 years between the release of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and then in 2023, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, it's probably too soon for there to be another one of those in 2025. So at best, the author here predicts early footage of the game at some sort of teaser or pre-release event. Now, you guys might recall that we talked about on the podcast a couple of years ago now. This is year 6 for What a Piece of Junk, everybody. Woo! A couple of years ago now, we talked about a re-release or remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. That was the whole episode of the podcast where I explained to Nathan that the original KOTOR was based on Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, which he had no idea, he said, maybe I'll go check out the old version. I think you actually downloaded it for like an iPad or something like that, Nathan, or did you never get around to that?
I'm not sure that if I
did,
I
or maybe
play
just
much
your
of it.
phone. I think maybe you played it on your phone for a little while.
No, I definitely never downloaded it on my phone. If I downloaded it anywhere, it's on the desktop.
Okay. Well, it was made, the original version of the game was available retro-wise for both iPad, iPhone, Android, and desktop. So you may have tinkered with it a bit or just watched a video. Anyway, the point is they were going to make a new modern or contemporary version of it with better graphics and not going to change the logic, though, because adapting it to 5e D&D would be silly and no real gain. But it hasn't actually happened yet. Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Karch confirmed last year that the game is still in active development despite rumors that it had been canceled. It seems strange to me that it would take them this long to just update KOTOR. I mean, it was such a robust game to begin with, but I don't know. Hopefully 2025 will bring us some good news on the KOTOR front. But as far as other previously announced Star Wars video games, you guys may recall a couple of years ago, Quantic Dream announced Star Wars Eclipse, and they had this epic trailer that was a teaser for this new Star Wars saga that was like a sandbox game. And we even reviewed the trailer. You may recall the dudes who looked like they were Asajj Ventress's race playing the giant drums with those giant drumsticks.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
And there was a big scene where there was a moon moving in front of a star over their planet, hence Star Wars Eclipse. And these really awesome new but yet familiar Star Wars spaceships designs were shown, and there was some dogfighting, and people had lightsabers and they were doing duels, and we didn't know who any of them were, and we just had that epic soundtrack, and it was all like coming soon. And then something happened at that game studio during some kind of, I think, blowback from the Me Too movement. And
yeah, then it was no longer coming soon.
Yeah, you kind of never heard anything else about it. We don't know if that means that there will be some announcement this year, or if this is like a lot of Star Wars films that got announced, maybe even had some kind of a teaser, and then poof, nothing is happening. In fact, there's a whole segment here in the article that we won't dive that deep into about all of the Star Wars movies that we have heard be announced over the years and have never come to fruition. About the only one that we're pretty sure is actually going to come out is The Mandalorian and Grogu. Still hate the title, but so be it. Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu is hopefully coming out May 22nd of 2026. If that does occur, I'll be happy for 2 reasons. 1, a return to Star Wars in the summertime. And 2, ScottCon for that year will be epic because we'll do all kind of Star Wars stuff with an RPG, Star Wars CCG tournament, and then going to see the movie. But I'm not holding my breath. What about you guys? What would you like to see happen in the world of Star Wars releases for 2025, Derek?
As I mentioned, right, like I think we'll get another animation, show of some sort, right? Like we know, I mean, we know that they finished filming the Mandu and Grogu, right? And that are in
Yeah.
post-production now. Will they have anything by April? I feel like they will, because if they want to release it, did you say they want to release it in May, right, of 2026?
They want to release it in May of
So
26.
if they want to try and have Star
specifically
Wars,
May 22nd.
correct, I'm saying, so if they're wanting to release it in May of 2026 to have their Star Wars celebration in probably Anaheim or wherever they're going to do in the US of 2026, that's going to be like the final trailer, because I don't think you would release it in April with only like 6 weeks to go, right? Like they'll be dropping that as much as they
Right.
can. Now, will we get a
Yeah.
full action trailer come April this year? Probably not, but it'll probably be a sneaky trailer, right? And then probably around
a teaser
Christmas
trailer,
time.
yeah.
But they'll have
Yeah.
some scenes in it, right? We'll get something decent, right? Enough, even if they just pick up right where they left off at the end of season 3, where Din and Grogu are just chilling at the hut, right? And something happens, right? So we'll get something like that here this April. And like I said, hopefully, that's when they release season 3 of Visions, because it'll just correspond since they're doing Japanese animation. And then I would imagine we'll get something for Christmas time, unless that's when they're going to drop Andor. But that seems like, to me, I feel like Andor is going to be coming out in May this year. Right when Visions ends. If they're going to do, well, no, don't they drop Visions all at once, or one each day, or was it a weekly? It wasn't weekly.
I think it wasn't it? Tales of the whatever was the one.
Tales of the Empire and Tales of the Jedi have been just dropped.
I feel like it wasn't quite weekly, but I don't think it was all at once either. If I'm trying to remember, it may have been a new one each day.
Like, because that's what they were doing with the what if seasons, right? Like they were dropping everything over a week.
Which honestly would mean that I wouldn't be surprised if they did a new one each day.
I would think that's what it would be.
Even if the old ones were dropped all at once.
Yeah. At least that way you get talked over for a couple of weeks versus just all at one time, right? And it gets binge watched. So either way, to me, Andor will either be coming out in May. It could be a summer release, but to me, summer is always so risky to put TV on, right? Because people are doing so much other stuff. So to me, it's either that or it's going to be like what we got last time, where it was over Christmas, right? It was a long, started in, when did Andor season 1 drop? Wasn't it start of Christmas time? Wasn't it December and dragged into like February because it was 12 weeks? Well, no, I guess we got the first 3 episodes all at once. So anyways, but to me, that's what I would expect it to be, is they're going to drop something in April for Star Wars Celebration. We'll get something in summer, and then we'll get something surprised for December timeframe, because then that'll help at least crawl into May of 2026. Unless they're going to release a couple of animation things that were surprised, but I would assume it's going to be something up Dave Filoni's thing, because Ahsoka season 2, he hasn't even written it yet. Technically, he says that's the next project he's focusing on. So, anyways, that's where I'm at.
All right, Nathan, what are you hoping to see?
I'll be honest. I don't really hope that they announce a whole bunch of new stuff. I hope that they announce that the stuff that they've already announced is still happening.
You're right. Yeah. The aforementioned Knights of the Old Republic remake, all these movies.
Yeah, we've had way too many things that have gotten announced and then have gone away. I think that might also play into why we don't have as much stuff announced now. I think they've kind of learned their lesson when they made, here's the announcement of all the things that are going to happen over the next several years, and then half or more of it just didn't. Like we're still not getting the Lando Calrissian Chronicles. I hate that, because I love that idea, but I wouldn't be in love with that idea if they had never told us about it.
Right.
So, yeah, mostly I want them to actually come out with the stuff they've said they'll come out with. Because, like you said, we had a period between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace where there just was not much for years.
Shadows of the Empire was it.
Until we got Shadows of the Empire and the Thrawn
Ewok movies. Come on.
Like I said, not much.
And droids and Ewok cartoons.
Uh-huh. So I stand by my point.
Yeah, your point is well made.
So the fact that we don't have that much stuff announced right now relative to recent years doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stuff. But if none of it comes to pass, then it becomes not much.
Then what is the point? Yeah. It will have all been for nothing, as 3PO says in The Rise of Skywalker. All right, well, but something that is not all for nothing, and that is, of course, Derek's favorite part of the show, where we talk about what Star Wars shirt are we wearing this week. This week, I am rocking speaking of EU, previously a denizen only of the EU, but now way more canon, Star Wars Thrawn. This is an epic comic book style cover with the little red symbol here from the Chiss Ascendancy. Everybody's favorite blue-skinned but red-eyed evil, or perhaps just anti-hero, no, evil, Grand Admiral, who is hopefully going to show up in Ahsoka Season 2, but maybe he'll be in a whole different show where he's the main villain back in the Prime Star Wars galaxy, while Ahsoka and friends are back over in the Peridia galaxy. Who's to know? Who's to say? Timothy Zahn might be the answer there, but at this point, Tim might not know what's happening with Thrawn in the future because, loose lips sink ships, and I think Dave Filoni has got plans and plans within plans, and he's not telling anybody. And Nathan's bio microchip won't let him tell us, even though he knows as part of the Filoni net.
It's very much like
Come on, Nathan, just melt some wires into some sand prints and call it a day.
Yeah, shove that metal rod into the back of your skull and override.
Look, last time I did that, I've never done that.
Indeed. All right, Nathan, what do you got for a Star Wars t-shirt this week?
Well, I'm wearing the same t-shirt that I was wearing the other week. So instead of a t-shirt, I'm going to talk about a different Christmas gift I got. My girlfriend Andrea got me this. It is a Mando Lego helmet.
The helmet.
Yes, I put this together yesterday. It is epic. I love it. It might be my favorite helmet that I've put together so far. I don't know. I do have that Rex one. But it is great. It was a lot easier than the Clone Troopers, actually, which kind of surprised me.
It's all one color.
Well, you say that. Inside, it's actually not. There's a bunch of different colors.
Yeah, it's so weird when Legos does that. It's like, here's like 20 different colors of pieces we just had randomly to throw it in.
But I think that might be to make the inside easier to build because it's very easy to tell, this piece is this piece because it's blue. It's the only piece of this size that's blue. But then once you get to the parts you actually see on the outside, it's got to be the right color. But yeah, there's some blues and reds and browns in the middle that you'll never see. But yeah, I do plan to take this to work where I currently have a couple of Clone Trooper helmets and replace one of the Clone Trooper helmets with this one and bring that one home.
Rotating helmets, baby.
Yes. I plan to rotate the helmets. So I'll probably have this one at Rex at work and then bring the Cody one home with my Luke Skywalker helmet. The Luke Skywalker helmet was the hardest of the four I've done so far because the inside of that one is like a black thing that you put a helmet on top of. And then you have all the little fiddly bits of the communication. So this thing,
the boom mic.
Yeah, those fell off very easily. But this one was super simple to put together. Could be I'm more experienced at it too. Probably helped. But I'm very excited.
Cool. All right, Derek, what do you got this episode?
So one of my Christmas presents I got from my sister-in-law was a Darth Vader Snuggie.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
It's the whole bodysuit of Vader, complete with chest panel with lots of blinking lights and switches and buttons.
Yes, and it's just outwards the front. It's just here, and it's just your arms, right, just like that. So even though
which one of these buttons calls your mom to come pick you up? Okay, sorry. I was going to say,
even though with my headphones on, I look like Princess Leia back here. So,
right, yeah.
What's that you say? A Star Wars Snuggie? I've never heard of such a thing.
Oh, not to be outdone, Nathan is unveiling his obviously.
Did he get one for Christmas too, or have you had this?
No, I've had this one for a while, but
There you go.
but yes, my Chewbacca Snuggie.
Snuggie.
We can,
Cool. I don't.
I
have
just
Star
wish
Wars
it was
Snuggie.
like a
Now I gotta
robe
find
though,
one.
where you could have like a belt to tie it around because it just keeps falling down.
Yeah, that's true. This is good for laying on the couch. It is not good for walking around.
No.
It's honestly not all that good for podcasting either, which is why I wasn't wearing it during the podcast.
No, it's a little.
See, if
too
you wore
warm.
that on the podcast, I would constantly be telling you, "Somebody get this walking carpet out of my way."
So I won't be wearing this on the podcast very often.
Well,
but now you have to get
guys-
one though, Scott.
I have to get one so that we could do one. Oh, you know what we should do, guys? We should all wear our Star Wars Snuggies the next time we do a live react show
There you go.
or
Yes.
watch along, and we can do our commentary on I don't know the Rise of Skywalker or something. Did we even did we do episode 9? I don't think we have.
Yeah, it came out the year when we were started the show. 'Cause it
No,
came
but I
out-
mean, did we do a commentary?
Oh no, but we did a review for that whole. couple
Right?
of
Yeah.
weeks, So
No, I meant like a running commentary.
no, we haven't done any commentary ever. So other than like the few episodes we've watched live, right? But we never do.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
Everybody pop in episode 4, the original trilogy. And we're
Exactly.
gonna go through
We
that.
should do that. We should
We
do
should
that.
do
We
that.
got.
for,
We don't have a whole lot of content coming out this year. We just talked
Yeah,
about.
we just
so-
went over
true.
how there's not a lot to podcast about.
Well, I was
so,
going to
yeah.
say one of the things that I'll be talking about is my take on the new Thrawn trilogies once I finish this one. So I can give my
Yeah.
take on the first 3 trilogy and then the second trilogy I'm working on right now. But I was going to say, but if you get one, Scott, you got to get one of a stormtrooper though, so that way you can wear it when you're driving your car too.
Could you imagine if I sit in the car and every so often slide the car seat cover up so that there's a stormtrooper head, then my body in the snuggie, and it's just like it looks like there's a stormtrooper driving the car.
That would be great.
hysterical.
Yeah, so I just double checked.
anyway.
Rise of Skywalker came out in 2019, and that is before I joined the podcast.
It is before you joined the podcast. That's true, but
I feel like
we're
we had
doing
you
the show.
on though.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
guessing.
Nathan was on as a guest every so
Yeah,
often.
as I say, I feel
Yeah,
like he was
and-
on for that
And
when we did it.
I would send in comments and thoughts and whatnot, but
That
but
was back when we used
until-
to have the little crawl across the bottom every so often as people live tweeted the show. But we
Well,
don't
we weren't
do it
using
live.
Yardstream, but what were you using back then?
Gosh, what was it called?
Garbage Pail Kids? I don't remember.
Garbage Pail Kids. Yes, that's it. No.
well, the
man.
big thing was
It was some kind of Google product.
I wasn't able to join the podcast until I started working from home because of the pandemic, and then I had time
Yeah.
because of the time that we recorded at that time.
Yeah, everybody likes to think that we were one of the myriad of podcasts that began during lockdown, but really, What a Piece of Junk started before we even knew what the coronavirus was.
Yes,
True.
we were doing it because of D Plus being launched in the Mando series. So
That's right. Yep. Good times. Good times. Well, if you guys want to engage your memories of days gone by for What a Piece of Junk, you can head over to tpublic.com and find cool memorabilia to remember us by, including t-shirts, coffee mugs, iPad cases, pillows, mouse pads, or any other kind of merch you can think of. And it's not just our show, of course. If you go to tpublic.com and look up Fandom Podcast Network in the search bar, you can find that type of stuff for any number of the shows here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And speaking of the FPN, Derek, where can people find us out there on the interwebs?
So the big thing you can do is going to the major master feed platform, which is the fpnet.podbean.com, which is through the Podbean app. But you can find us on any of the podcast networks, right? So you have Apple Podcasts, you have Stitcher, you have Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, all those cool things. I don't know if I would imagine we would have been notified. I don't think we ever got with Sirius XM, but we should try to do that next, Kyle. Commander Kyle or Admiral Kyle on his next adventure out there.
He's been promoted.
Yeah, several times. Anyways, but
They
then
made him an admiral. Oh, sorry,
Wrong
series.
property. Wrong property.
So, but you can find us on really mainly the Facebook, right? The What a Piece of Junk is Star Wars podcast Facebook group. But then we do have an email that, Scott occasionally checks. I don't even know the last time he dusted that off though. Because people who email, right? Like, I mean, everything's through TikTok, or whatever,
Oh
or
God, not
the,
TikTok.
or they text message us. But like I said, you can do that through Facebook Messenger. So hit us up.
Yes.
But email whatapieceofjunkpod@gmail.com. Twitter is @whatwars, which, Kyle still kind of runs because Twitter's just Twitter now. And then Instagram, which is through the Fandom Podcast Network group, which is just Fandom Podcast Network. And then Apple Podcasts, as I mentioned. We like for us to leave reviews. So really tell us, Nathan, why do we like the listeners to leave us reviews?
Well, there's a few reasons we like for listeners to leave reviews. One is because it helps other people find the show, and another is because it allows us to know what we're doing well, what we could be doing better. We love to get those 5-star reviews too. Admiral Kyle gets really crabby when we don't get those 5-star reviews, and he might just eat our ship.
Review.
Yeah, that was
review.
Yeah, review. Yeah, we don't want the drunken Gungan to fall victim to a giant trash compacting ship. So please leave us your reviews. Let us know what we can do better and what we're doing well, and let Admiral Kyle know what a great job we're doing.
We're gonna have to ask Commander Kyle or Admiral Kyle, whatever. We're gonna have to ask him for an upgrade on the drunken Gungan then, because I mean, if the Onyx Cinder's got this whole ship within a ship, I think we're due for something.
Yeah, surely.
Absolutely. I want some cool demolition thing, or like an escape pod that can launch from between the cargo forts, like on the Millennium
I just want a cool button to push,
or at least a sober Gungan.
But yes, no more drunken Gungans, sober Gungans for 2025. It's going to be a dry. No, it's not. All right. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the show 159. Next time, we're going to be going to show number 160. My gosh, you guys, what a number of shows for us to have achieved. So please join us then, and between shows, reach out to us. Let us know what you liked, what you hated. And please, always remember to respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.